And don't forget to order your copy of Football Game Plan's latest book, Stiff Arming Football Myths, an excellent book that you can find on our website at footballgameplan.com/books, available in both PDF as well as paperback form. Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, bring you our 2014 NFL team preview for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're going to take a look at their offense, their defense, as well as their special teams. So let's start on the offensive side of the football with the quarterback position. The Bucs brought in Josh McCown in the offseason, and he was immediately named the starter. Granted, he's coming off his best season as a pro, throwing 13 touchdowns to only 1 interception and helping stabilize the Bears' season, but he's 34, and I wonder if he can maintain that level of consistency for a full season. Plus, last year's rookie Mike Glennon wasn't that bad for the Buccaneers. You know, at least Glennon will get better with more reps and more playing time, while McCown will only begin to decline. It wouldn't surprise me to see both quarterbacks earn starts before the season is over. In my opinion, this is the deepest position on the Bucs team. Tampa Bay can go 4 deep in the backfield. They're led by Doug Martin, who's an outstanding running back who battled injuries all year long before being lost for the season. He's back at 100%, and his absence opened the door for both Bobby Rainey and Mike James to shine. Both guys really impressed in their starts last year. In the third round, the Bucs selected Charles Sims out of West Virginia, who excels in the passing game both as a receiver as well as a blocker. And offensive coordinator Jeff Tedford will create ways to get he as well as speedster Jeff Demps to football. At fullback, I think Lonnie Pryor is an underrated talent, a guy that reminds me a lot of Larry Sanders and has a lot of Larry Sanders-like ability coming from the fullback position. This group, while young, has the potential to do big things this year for Tampa Bay. Veteran wide receiver Vincent Jackson was a leading receiver last season, going over 1,200 yards and caught 78 passes despite seeing double coverage or road coverage toward his side. The Bucs added big help for him literally with Mike Evans out of Texas A&M, who is, in my opinion, a Vincent Jackson clone. And Evans would be able to take some of the pressure off of Jackson and balance the field just a little bit more. In the slot, you look at Louis Murphy and Chris Owusu continue to compete for that number 3 role, but I think rookie 6th-round pick Robert Herron is perfectly suited for that position because of his quickness off the ball and into his route, as well as what he does after the catch. I think the trio of Jackson, Evans, and Herron could be a potent one for Tampa Bay. At tight end, the Bucs got better here as well. In the draft, they selected Austin Seferian-Jenkins out of Washington, who was my number 1 rated tight end in the draft because of what he does on both ends of offense. He's a Jimmy Graham type player that can also block. They've added Brandon Myers from the New York Giants with him, as well as Tim Wright. They're a good second and third move tight end H-back type options that can do well on the move and in the passing game. I'd also look for undrafted rookie free agent Cameron Bright out of Harvard, a former wide receiver, to push Luke Stocker for that 4th tight end job. There's talent and questions up front for Tampa Bay. The hope is that Carl Nicks has finally shaken the Mercer issue that has plagued him the last 2 seasons. His healthy return is huge for this offensive line. There's a battle for the other guard spot between Patrick Omea, Onyel Cousins, and rookie Kadeem Edwards out of Tennessee State, as well as Jamon Meredith. You're probably going to see a combination of all 5 guys at some point during the season. Edwards, in my opinion, has the better long-term potential. The Bucs signed Anthony Collins in free agency to man the left tackle spot. He and DeMar Dotson make 2 good bookends. Dotson started all 16 games last year and is the lone returning starter on the squad. Evan Dietrich Smith was also brought in via free agency from the Green Bay Packers to start at center. Dietrich Smith is much more physical at the point of attack, which aids the running game to being successful this year as well. Look for the production here to increase over last season. Defensive tackle Gerald McCoy is one of the best defensive players in the game, and McCoy led the team in sacks last year with 9.5. And the plan is to find good rotational help opposite of him with free agent signee Clint McDonald from the Seattle Seahawks and Akeem Spence, who was drafted last year. Spence had a solid showing as a rookie and is expected to make significant strides in year 2. At defensive end, Adrian Claiborne has proven to be a solid and dependable starter coming off the edge, and the club has been looking for consistent help opposite of him. The hope was that Daquan Bowers could be that guy, but he hasn't fully panned out, which is why in free agency they signed Michael Johnson from the Cincinnati Bengals, a long athletic pass rusher that also has versatility to drop in coverage. Two second-year players provide good situational depth. That's William Golson and also Steven Means, giving the Bucs a solid defensive line. Outside of Levante David, who's a top 5 linebacker in the NFL, you can see some questions in the Bucs linebacking core. David led the team in tackles with 144 and in interceptions with 5. He should continue to flourish in Lovie Smith's defense. Mason Foster's a solid player in the running game, but leaves a lot to be desired in pass coverage. Foster's improvement in that area could be huge for this unit. Now, I would also keep an eye on free agent signee Dane Fletcher from the New England Patriots to push for a starting spot either at Mike or at Sam. Jonathan Casillas is the other linebacker, outside linebacker, and he's known for his solid play on special teams, and he finally gets the opportunity as a full-time starter. If he can stay healthy, this is a big-time addition because he does have the speed and the athleticism, but when you look at the depth here at the linebacker position, it's a major concern. The cornerback position is stout for Tampa Bay. Both free agent signee Alteron Burner and second-year player Jonathan Banks are good press guys with ball skills. Burner made the Pro Bowl last year after picking off 5 passes, and Banks should find a consistency in his second full season of starting. Both Mike Jenkins and Leonard Johnson will compete for the nickel job. That's a strong quartet of cornerbacks right there for the Bucs. I'd also keep an eye on undrafted rookie free agent Keith Lewis out of UVA Lynchburg. He's a guy that can play on the boundary and the slot, even at safety. And speaking of the safety position, both Deshaun Golson and Mark Barron return as starters, and I believe Golson could flourish in this defense because of his closing speed to the ball carrier that could result into more interceptions. And the Bucs need Barron to continue to raise his level of play. He did well last year, looking for more growth in year 3. Look for Major Wright to also be in the mix for playing time, especially in sub packages. Punter Michael Conan did well last year, averaging 44 yards a punt, downing numerous punts inside the 20. And kicker Connor Barth returns from injury and hopes to regain his 2012 form when he connected on 84% of his kicks. Eric Page handled the return duties, and while dependable, he has to do a better job of holding on to the football. The Bucs weren't as bad as their record indicated. They are solid on both sides of the ball, and they have really upgraded the talent at receiver to go along with their outstanding running game. And when you look at Jeff Tedford's success on offense and with quarterbacks, and Lovie Smith's as well as Leslie Frazier's proven track record for defensive success, there's a lot of reason to be optimistic in Tampa. The fact that they are pinning their hopes on Josh McCown replicating what he did in Chicago, plus the offensive line is a slight question as well. That's a big-time concern. You can also look at the linebacking core outside of David as a possible question mark as well. The road to the Super Bowl for the Buccaneers goes as follows. Number 1, McCown's 2013 wasn't an aberration, and he plays like that this year for Tampa Bay. That bodes well for these guys making some noise in the NFC South. And you also look at the young receiving core with the tight ends balancing the passing game. If they can get other options involved outside of Vincent Jackson, again, it's going to make Tampa Bay that much tougher to defend. And defensively, they have to move into the top 10. I think they have a great chance of doing so because of the personnel and the coaching that's on this staff. I think they have a great chance to not only make some noise in the NFC South, but if they get into the playoffs, they can find themselves in Glendale, Arizona. I have the Bucs finishing 4th in the NFC South. Defensively, I think they'll be very tough. Offensively, they'll be much improved, but in a tough division, it has gotten better. Defensively, you have to worry about an offensive line that gave up 47 sacks last year with new pieces that are trying to gel together very quickly. Next year, I think the Bucs will be in the mix for the division, but not this season. I think they take a step back or get improved record-wise, but still finish 4th in the NFC South. And I also want to give a huge shout-out to Buccaneer fan forums for always showing football game plan support.